the man sitting next to me has really changed and challenged readers and stories. Fantastic Four, Avengers, Secret Wars, and now is coming out with some brand new amazing stories that, honestly, from what I've read, are going to change the X-Men forever, with Powers of 10 and House of X. So please welcome to the stage, Jonathan Hickman. All right, so we're going to be doing some signings of these amazing posters up here. The House of X poster and the Power of 10 poster for those who are here. But before that, I want to pick your brain a little bit. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, I promise they're all softball questions.
Okay. I'm a Pisces.
You like long walks?
Sure.
Great. So 2019, we've talked about this a lot, marks the 80th anniversary for Marvel. And when you look at comics, it really has just been an amazing ride. But in examining the 8 years of Marvel history, for you as a writer and as a fan, what do you feel have been some of the most important and impactful stories for you personally as a writer?
In terms of like stuff I read and I loved, and as a fan, it kind of sparked my imagination and kind of inspired the kind of stories I want to do. The first Secret Wars, way back in the day was massive. Obviously, I've been very clear about what a huge X-Men fan I was. But, it's always been the weird Marvel stories like Micronauts and that kind of stuff that always really kind of sparked that part of my brain where I was like, I want to do this kind of stuff. So, House of Ideas, right?
I love it. So for you, in that, there has to be like an anatomy of what you think is a great story.
Sure.
What makes a great story the Marvel way?
All the best Marvel stories are the big stories, right? And so that's kind of what I'm into. But of course, it ties back down into the characters that you love. And the cool thing about Marvel stories is that they're almost all everyman stories. Like you can see how you would be Peter Parker and all of that kind of stuff. Or with the mutant stuff, it's the little thing that makes you different than everybody else, right? And so it's got to have those two things, in my opinion. And then modern storytelling wise, it's got to be serialized. It's got to build to something. It's got to matter to the reader and therefore matter to the internal continuity that Marvel, kind of perpetuates.
Which, and if having read both of the first issues that are coming out,
sure,
they are big stories. There is a big story to be told. And, with the X-Men, as beloved as they are, Professor X and Magneto have arguably had one of the most complicated relationships, I would say, and pretty fascinating throughout the Marvel universe.
Sure.
From you, what draws you to their relationship? Because there is a lot going on coming up.
Well, I think every like super massive hero villain or enemy story is based around people who used to love each other or at least respect each other. Like I think it's the same way with Reed Richards and Dr. Doom, right? They don't obviously they used to respect each other, and that grew into animosity and jealousy and all the petty human stuff. And I think Magneto and Xavier work in an even better way because they both kind of agree with on what they want. Right. They both want the same thing. They just can't agree on how to do it.
As you're approaching this long history with many, many, many veins and many, many, many times, how do you find the balance between creating something new and big and interesting and fascinating, but also really respecting the legacy of the X-Men that we know and love?
Well, I think there's a certain amount of this. It's alchemy, it's magic of the moment, right? There's no hard and fast rule of how to mine continuity and do books that remind people of what they loved as a kid and do new stuff. Like there's not a perfect methodology for it, which is why it fails so much when people try and do it. Like it's a really, really, it's a really delicate balance. And so what I've done is that I'm doing brand new things that feel like old things, and there are tricks. Again, I don't want to give anything away, but there are certain things that we're setting up that make you feel like you're going to get a traditional experience, and then we turn a little left, a little right, and we say, we're doing a new version of it, and it works as exciting people because they're getting the new thing, but it feels like it was going to be the thing that was familiar and that they loved. But if you would have done that same thing, they would have seen that 100 times at this point, and it would have failed. So it's delicate. It's hard. It's which is cool, which is, I guess, what makes me a professional, right?
It's art.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But the thing about this X-Men stuff is it's been an absolute joy. Like I've felt like a kid doing it, and it's got that kind of energy. When you read House of X for the first time, you're like, it just works, right?
It does. It does.
Or not, or you could hate it. I don't know.
So this last question, it's a very important question.
Sure.
This is a lot of controversy here on this question.
Sure.
You recently tweeted, you wrote 5,000 words on when someone can and cannot utter the phrase Omega level. The stage is yours. Please explain when someone can and cannot utter the phrase Omega level. Because I need to know.
The long answer is super complicated, and it's going to be covered in the book. The short answer is what I say it is, from this point forward. I'm just kidding. It's absolutely covered in the first issue of House of X. It makes a lot of sense, and it makes it very clean going forward.